Hey everyone, welcome to your channel Cash and another history from World of Dota 2. Today we're diving into the story of Legion Commander and Underlord. Let's go! They always struck without warning. The Abyssal army would descend upon cities with no sign or announcement, reducing entire civilizations to rubble in the blink of an eye. There are no legends or heroic songs about the Abyssal horde, and for one simple reason, they leave no survivors behind to tell the tale. The only thing people know is that they emerge from nowhere, unleash complete destruction and slaughter, and then vanish back into the unknown. Merciless, ruthless, powerful, and driven by an endless desire for domination. But the secret behind these mysterious invasions lies deep beneath the earth, far below the roots of dormant volcanoes, in the colossal underground city of Azyog. Its cavernous, hive-like structures glow with an eerie green hue, while unmatched stonework shapes a city unlike anything else in the world. This is the domain of Vrogros, the tyrannical ruler and master of the Abyssal Horde. Yet the creatures that make up the Abyssal army are not true soldiers. They are merely the enslaved servants of the terrifying Vrogros. And within Azyog, there is no joy, no hope, and no life as most would know it. Only fear, despair, and absolute obedience fill its endless depths.
The abyss knows no mercy. It knows no light. It knows only fear and despair.
And wherever Vrogros marches, fear and despair march with him. The master weaponsmith of Azyog worked tirelessly to arm the Abyssal Horde with the deadliest weapons imaginable. Among their creations, none is more infamous than the Abyssal Blade. In the early days of his rise to power, Vrogros was consumed by an insatiable hunger for conquest. For a long time, that was enough. But eventually, the underground could offer no more lands to conquer. So Vrogros turned his gaze upward. Above him lay vast kingdoms and mighty nations, seemingly waiting to be claimed. After mastering the forbidden art of the Dark Rift, he began launching devastating invasions against the surface world. One of the greatest powers across the Seven Lands was the Stonehall Empire. Its strength did not come from Emperor Galenius, but from the legendary commander of the Bronze Legion, Tresdin. When Tresdin was only 15 years old, the Bronze Legion invaded and conquered her homeland, the city of Koij. After the city's armies surrendered, the victors offered the younger survivors a cruel choice. Join the Bronze Legion and become one of them or die. The Legion's commander even made a bold declaration. Anyone who wishes may challenge me to a duel. Defeat me and you will take my place. The people of Koij ignored the offer. But 15-year-old Tresdin stepped forward and challenged the commander herself. If you expected this story to end with a teenage girl defeating the leader of the Bronze Legion and instantly becoming its new commander, that's not what happened. She was thrown into a dungeon, beaten, and left to rot. Yet she escaped. For years, she survived through grueling labor, caring for horses and taking on whatever hard work she could find. During that time, she trained relentlessly with nothing more than a wooden sword. After years of determination, discipline, and perseverance, Tresdin rose through the ranks of the Bronze Legion until, at last, she became the Legion Commander. From that day on, Tresdin became known to the world as the Legion Commander. Her story also carries a simple lesson. True success is rarely achieved overnight. If you want to accomplish the great dreams you hold in your mind, you must be willing to dedicate years of effort, discipline, and persistence. But back to the story. As commander of the Bronze Legion, Tresdin led countless successful campaigns and earned a reputation as one of the greatest military leaders of her age.
City lies ahead! Today we claim our victory! Forward! No mercy!
Under her command, the Empire expanded its borders by conquering 6 territories: Taras, Fieldado, Crester, Kalins, Slokoit, and Terran. Tresdin was celebrated as a brilliant strategist, excelling in both offensive and defensive warfare. Yet, even more than her tactical genius, she was feared for her unmatched skill in one-on-one combat. Thanks to her leadership, the Bronze Legion and the Stonehall Empire endured for many years, surviving relentless conflicts against enemies such as the Oglodi. Through victories and defeats alike, they defended their homeland and preserved their rule. Before long, Stonehall's capital had been transformed into an almost impenetrable fortress. Its towering walls and formidable defenses inspired such confidence that no living soul believed the city could ever face a truly serious threat, let alone the possibility of defeat. Even if the entire Bronze Legion were to fall in battle, the walls of Stonehall were believed to stand unbroken, denying entry to any invader. But then they struck without warning. The Abyssal Horde descended upon Stonehall with no signal and no mercy. At the time, Tresdin and her army were celebrating one of their latest victories near the capital when an eerie plume of green smoke began rising from the city. Vrogros the Underlord had launched his assault. Without hesitation, Tresdin rallied the entire Bronze Legion and marched back to defend Stonehall. But by the time they arrived, it was already too late. Most of the city had been reduced to ruins. Innocent mothers and children lay slaughtered in the streets. And the strangest part of all, Stonehall's mighty walls were still standing completely untouched. Using the power of the Dark Rift, Vrogros had bypassed the city's defenses and transported the Abyssal army directly inside. The Legion Commander and her soldiers immediately engaged the monstrous invaders. Yet even the legendary Bronze Legion struggled against the terrifying might of the Abyssal Horde. After a prolonged and brutal bloodbath, Tresdin finally spotted the leader of the invasion. With a thunderous shout, she drew the attention of the colossal Vrogros. Tresdin realized that there was only one way to defeat the monstrous horde: kill its leader. Ignoring the chaos unfolding around her, she focused on a single objective: facing Vrogros in one-on-one combat. Towering over her in both size and presence, Vrogros accepted the challenge in his own terrifying way and charged straight at her. As the soldiers of the Bronze Legion fought desperately and edged closer to their final moments, Tresdin and Vrogros clashed blade against blade in a brutal duel. At the height of the battle, Tresdin gathered all her strength and unleashed what she hoped would be a decisive strike. But Vrogros blocked the attack and countered with tremendous force, knocking her off her feet and hurling her backward. Refusing to surrender, the Legion Commander planted her sword into the ground, pushed herself back up, and charged again, faster and more fiercely than before. This desperate assault became the turning point for both her own fate and that of the remaining Bronze Legion. Her blade carved a deep wound into the giant's body, spilling Vrogros' strange green blood across the battlefield. Without hesitation, Tresdin pressed the attack, determined to finish him once and for all. But the Underlord escaped. Summoning the power of his Dark Rift, Vrogros fled back into the shadows, abandoning the remnants of the Abyssal army behind him. With their master gone, it did not take long for the remaining Abyssal forces to be hunted down and destroyed. The battle was won, but at a terrible cost. Stonehall lay in ruins. Only a fraction of the once proud Bronze Legion remained alive. The Abyssal Horde had been shattered, and deep beneath the earth, Vrogros returned to Azyag, gathering his strength and preparing for the conquest of even more lands to come. To Tresdin, Stonehall was more than a capital. It was home. Now nothing remained but ashes and shattered ruins. Grief, exhaustion, and burning rage consumed her. Yet there was nothing she could do to undo the devastation. All she could do was stand among the wreckage and witness the price of the battle that had changed her world forever. For a long time, Tresdin searched for a way to take revenge, to avenge Stonehall, to avenge her fallen army. She also knew that if Vrogros returned, his next invasion could be even more devastating. Without the Bronze Legion, without Stonehall, she stood in grave danger. Driven by grief and desperation, Tresdin sought greater power, and she found it in a pair of blazing swords. These legendary blades, known as Wool the Mesh, had been forged by the mighty Queet, and they had now fallen into her hands. What she did not realize was the terrible price those infernal weapons demanded in exchange for their power. Tresdin began wielding the swords, and their incredible strength astonished her. But she remained unaware of what they were doing to her body, her mind, and her very soul. With every battle, the cursed blades changed her. Alongside her newfound power came an ever-growing savagery that she could no longer control. Whenever she entered a duel, flames seemed to rise around her. And almost without realizing it, her words became filled with talk of darkness, burning, destruction, and slaughter.
This land will burn! Darkness comes!
It eventually reached the point where Tresdin began speaking in the language of demons, a tongue she had never learned and should never have been able to understand.
Oskovos Icha Domos!
Tresdin became aware of these changes. She was locked in a constant struggle to preserve her true identity. But after everything she had been through, Tresdin had only one priority left: power above everyone else.
The infinite power of the burning hells is worth any price!
Now, with a transformed body and soul, and greater power than ever before, she stood ready to face Vrogros, and anyone who tried to stand in her way was doomed to destruction. But on the other side, Vrogros had not been idle. After rebuilding his strength and restoring the Abyssal army, he had joined the court of Ristone. By forging a pact with this hellish faction, he had become even more powerful than before. Vrogros was even recognized as a demon by Bakur, the sister of Mokasha. With his newfound power, Vrogros was already preparing plans for invasions and conquests greater than ever before. And that's the story of the Legion Commander and Underlord. In another video, we'll cover the artifact and the Auglodi. So let's dive into some of the game's coolest quotes from both Underlord and Legion Commander. We start with Underlord dialogue. The Abyssal Blade was originally said to belong to Underlord, but it was lost. There are even several voice lines that reference it. Now that we know the story, it's possible to speculate that Vrogros may have left the Abyssal Blade behind during the Battle of Stonehall against the Legion Commander, perhaps at the very moment he was forced to flee. Back in the original Dota, Vrogros the Underlord was known as Asgalor, the Pit Lord. Since that character was an established figure from Warcraft, he was ultimately removed and redesigned to avoid copyright issues. Underlord's arrival in Dota 2 was also unforgettable. During the 10v10 All-Star match at the International 2016 TI6, Enotail was playing Sand King. After a pause, his hero suddenly transformed into Underlord, and he played the rest of the match as the newly revealed hero. That moment marked Underlord's official introduction to Dota 2. In his voice lines, Underlord has plenty of exchanges with the Legion Commander that reflect their story. But beyond that, there are also two fun references to famous movies. One of them points to The Dark Knight Rises, where the film's villain, Bane, delivers a memorable line.
You have my permission to die.
Another reference appears when Underlord uses his ultimate ability and delivers one of his voice lines. That quote is a nod to a line spoken by Samuel L. Jackson in Jurassic Park.
Hold on to your butts!
Another interesting point about Underlord is that there seems to be a contradiction regarding where he actually comes from. Some parts of the lore clearly state that his home lies deep beneath the earth, below the roots of dormant volcanoes. But other references suggest that he comes from an entirely different realm. Which one is correct? It's hard to say. Perhaps his underground kingdom exists beneath another world altogether. Then again, isn't the underworld supposed to be hell? On top of that, many characters claim that he came from the Abyss. And even the name of his army, the Abyssal Horde, points in that direction. His original title was even Abyssal Underlord. The term abyss is often described as a bottomless chasm or an endless void. And it also appears to refer to the place or domain from which Underlord originates. But let's not get too caught up in the details. At the end of the day, Underlord lives in some strange subterranean realm, opens his dark rift, marches in with his army, and wipes out anyone unlucky enough to stand in his way. Now, let's move on to the Legion Commander. Back in the original Dota 1, the Legion Commander was a mustached man, and traces of that old version can still be found in the Dota 2 incarnation. For example, when addressing heroes who ride horses, beasts, or anything similar, she says,
"I like your mount."
It almost sounds as if she's jealous of them and wishes she could still ride a mount, just like she did back in Dota 1. The second clue is that she seems to have a particular fondness for mustaches. Whenever she encounters heroes with mustaches, she says, "There's another possible connection to that mustached horseman from Dota 1. According to Dota Wiki, the original character was extremely suspicious and constantly claimed that only humans could
Nice
be trusted.
mustache.
Interestingly, our Legion Commander has plenty of voice lines that show she doesn't trust anyone either.
Never trust an assassin. Never trust a wizard. Never trust a dragon. Never trust a demon. Never trust a snake. Never trust a fish. Never trust a tree. Never trust an engineer. Never trust an insect. Never trust the dead. Never trust a bear. Never trust a... What are you anyway?
Come on, Ben.
Personally, I think there's another explanation. In the artifact storyline, Tresdin's army is betrayed by a wool, one of the strange creatures serving as its leader. That betrayal may be the real reason she trusts no one.
War always changes.
Anyway, this voice line is a reference to the famous Fallout series where it says,
War never changes.
and this line is a reference to General George S. Patton, one of America's most famous military commanders.
You won't win the war by dying for your ancient. You win by making the other dumb, unfed bastard die for theirs.
As we mentioned, after obtaining her arcana, she gained demonic power, and those infernal blades effectively transformed her into something resembling a demon. You can even hear it in her voice lines. Her tone changes, becoming noticeably harsher and more aggressive as she says,
Whatever they brought, it won't be enough. Whatever they brought, it won't be enough. If they want war, then we shall give it to them! If they want war, then we shall give it to them!
Another small detail they added that I found really interesting is that they didn't just include new voice lines about demons, they also disabled some of her softer, more lighthearted lines whenever the Arcana is equipped, lines that don't really fit her demonic persona. Without the Arcana, she can still say them, but with it equipped, she won't use them at all. For example,
A strategic benefit!
in another voice line she says,
Never trust a demon.
that final line was removed when the Arcana is equipped, because she's slowly becoming a demon herself. There's also an immortal helmet whose description reveals that while Tresdin was searching the underground for Underlord to exact her revenge, she discovered a helmet embedded with a powerful stone. When she put it on, it began to transform her in much the same way as her Arcana, pushing her further down the path of becoming a demon. As for romantic relationships, Pengolier hints at one by mentioning someone named Belisano. He says,
So, Tresdin, and were you going to tell me about Belisano? A lesser man would have been jealous.
The funny part is that Belisano actually appears on one of the artifact cards, so we get to see what they look like. And, well, this is what they look like. I honestly have no idea what was going on there. Anyway, that's how it is. And with that, we've reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to support the channel with a like and subscribe.